everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. And I'm very delighted to welcome our speakers, Maria Brancato from American Lung Association and Dr. Amali Samarasinghe from University of Wisconsin. And our speakers are going to talk about how to prepare a very competitive grant application for American Lung Association Research Awards. And I'm joined by our co-chair, Dr. Yason, and we will start with brief introductions. First, I'm Ranu Suralia. I am chairing Early Career Professional Working Group at EOPH Assembly. I'm an associate professor. I'm a research faculty at University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I study the mechanism of environmental exposure-induced chronic lung diseases, specifically with more focus to small airway diseases. Maria, you are on my screen next to me, so please introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Maria Brancato. I'm the nationwide Senior Director of the Research Institute at the American Lung Association. Dr. Samarasinghe?
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Ranu. My name is Amali Samarasinghe. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Medicine at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I'm a member of the PITB Assembly. I do a lot of service for the American Thoracic Society, so it's one of my favorites. And of course, the American Lung Association is my ever so favorite foundation for funding. So I'm delighted to be here.
Dr. Sun?
Hi, I'm Yason. I'm a pediatric pulmonologist at Boston Children's. I'm co-chair of the Early Career Working Group at EOPH, and today I'll be monitoring the chat for questions, which we'll go over at the end.
All right, Maria and Amali, all yours.
Thank you. Okay, I wanted to start the conversation sharing an overview of what our current grant cycle looks like. For this grant cycle, we received 246 applications, reflecting an approximate 38% increase from last year's total of 178, and a 75% increase since 2022. Now, this year, due to federal funding shifts and funding priorities, we are expecting a surge in those numbers, and we're expecting them to increase significantly this grant cycle. To review those 246 applications that were submitted, we recruited 90 scientific experts to support the review process. The committee meetings were held in person in Chicago last April, and our scientific reviewers identified the highest scoring applications, which were then recommended for funding. As I mentioned, this year we have 46 projects that we're funding, and of those, in total, the American Lung Association is funding 130 awards, and of those 130 awards, 36 were for early career researchers. We offer a range of award opportunities designed specifically for early career investigators, including the Catalyst Award, the Indoor Air Award, the Public Health and Public Policy Research Award, the Dalsimer Interstitial Lung Disease Award. And all of these programs provide not just dedicated funding, but also mentorship, networking, and clear pathways to research independence. It's important for me to clarify who we consider early career to be able to apply for those opportunities. Eligible applicants must hold a doctoral degree, such as a PhD, MD, or DO, and be affiliated with an academic or nonprofit institution in the U.S. These awards are intended to support researchers prior to receipt of their major career development grants, like the NIH K08, K23, or K99. And we also welcome postdoctoral fellows and medical fellows who have completed at least 2 years of mentored research. Medical residents, current students, and established investigators are not eligible for our early career award mechanisms. For more established researchers, we have other grant mechanisms that I'm going to go over with you right now. As investigators progress and begin to establish themselves, we have a suite of other awards for independent and mid-career researchers. as I just mentioned. And these include the Innovation Award, the Lung Cancer Discovery Award, the Hastings Innovation Award for the Allergic Respiratory Disease Award, and the Emerging Respiratory Pathogens Award. Both the Indoor Air Award and the Public Health Public Policy Research Award are available for independent and early career levels. Our goal is to ensure there's a clear pathway of researchers to progress from mentor training and early discoveries to full independence and major breakthroughs. By providing targeted opportunities at each of the stages, we're investing not only in scientific progress, but in people who will lead the next generation of lung health research. Our current grant cycle opened on August 7th, and we continue to offer our 9 grant mechanisms. I am not going to go over with detail for each of these, but they are posted on our website. The RFAs are posted on our website. We offer the Quad AI ALA Award, which supports allergic respiratory disease. As I mentioned, the Catalyst Award for mentored early career scientists, the Dalsamer Interstitial Lung Disease Award that provides seed monies for mentor early career scientists, our Emerging Respiratory Pathogens Award that's designed to gain a better understanding of the pathobiology and the immediate and long-term implications of respiratory infections. Then we have our Hastings Innovation Award that is geared towards independent investigators conducting research in interstitial lung disease. Our Innovation Award that funds independent researchers who are conducting research on lung health or disease. And our Lung Cancer Discovery Award that supports investigators who aim to improve our understanding of lung cancer and improve diagnostic clinical treatment methods. Then we have our Public Health and Public Policy Research Award that supports research on evaluation of existing public policies and health programs, as well as our new grant, which is our Indoor Air Grant. And again, for more information about our grant opportunities, please visit lung.org/research. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always refer them to me. I would like to just briefly go over each of the mentored awards to provide a little more detail. I am going to start with the Catalyst Award, which is designed to support promising early career scientists conducting innovative research in basic science, clinical, behavioral, or translational lung health research. The goal of the award is to provide funding that helps investigators generate preliminary data, establish independent research careers, and position themselves for larger funding opportunities in the future. Preference is given to projects that are novel, innovative in design and approach, utilize modern technology, or incorporate a multidisciplinary collaborative training plan. Successful applicants are early career investigators on track to pursue a career in lung health research with a mentor that has demonstrated history of lung disease research and mentorship. At the time of application, the applicant must hold a relevant doctorate degree, as I had mentioned before, be affiliated with a recognized academic institution or nonprofit in the U.S. Again, all of our mentored awards are geared towards investigators prior to career development grants like the KOA, K23, and K99. Then we have our Dalsamer Interstitial Lung Disease Award that is specifically supporting research in interstitial lung disease, as the name alludes to. And this award provides crucial funding for scientists investigating the mechanisms and potential treatments for ILD, helping to bridge the gap between basic science and translational applications. Then we have our Indoor Air Award, and this award is our newest mechanism. It was launched in 2024 as part of the Research Institute commitment to addressing environmental determinants of lung health. The committee is led by Dr. Meredith McCormick and Dr. John Balms. The award project spans a wide spectrum of indoor air quality research, from prenatal exposure and infant lung development to indoor air pollution in low-income housing to air cleaner use and behavioral interventions. Then we have our Public Health and Public Policy Award. We've expanded this eligibility a couple of years ago. It was only available for independent researchers, and now it's available for independent and early career researchers. And this award focuses on policy impacts on tobacco use and flavored tobacco, effects on intervention emissions and climate policies on lung health, legislative impacts on lung cancer, COPD, and asthma. And it also addresses health inequalities and social determinants, and policies that are affecting care access, coverage, and immunizations. Here are some of our key dates. The grant deadline for all grant mechanisms is December 1st, 2025. So you still have some time to submit your applications. Okay, so how are our funding recommendations made? Applications determined by ALA administrative review to be eligible for funding go through an external peer review process. So American Lung Association staff, such as myself, will review the applications to make sure that eligibility is met and also that it follows our mission. And those applications then go to an external peer review process. And factors that are considered when reviewing applications include scientific merit, technical feasibility, innovation in approach, design, and methodology, the project relevance to the mission, of course, of the American Lung Association, which is to save lives, improving lung health, and preventing lung disease. Then researchers or reviewers are looking for applicants' education, experience, evidence of faculty status, or permanent research appointment, on an ongoing institutional commitment from the department chair, and the impact of the research on lung health and the likelihood that the applicant will make significant contributions to the field. As I mentioned, some of our mechanisms have LOIs, our Lung Cancer Discovery Award, our Emerging Respiratory Pathogens Award, and our Indoor Air Awards all had LOI stage, which was the deadline for that was September 18th. For the rest of the mechanisms, the deadline for application is December 1st. Okay, once applications are submitted, every application is reviewed by 2 scientific reviewers. As I mentioned before, we meet in person in Chicago. This year, we're recruiting around 130, 150 scientific reviewers to help us review the surge of applications that we're anticipating. And those applications, the highest scoring applications are recommended for funding. And with that, I will pass it to Dr. Samarasinghe. Dr. Samarasinghe?
Thanks so much, Maria. So hi, everybody. Welcome. My job today is to talk to you about how to submit the perfect fundable application to the American Lung Association, and also give you some tips that come into play when we think about the application from our perspective, which is the perspective of the reviewer. So as I mentioned before, I'm an associate professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and my research program is actually focused on the impact of respiratory infections in asthma. So I'm 100% totally focused on lung health, and that aligns my research very well with the American Lung Association. So I think that's the starting point. Maria already sort of mentioned, alignment, mission alignment, right? So your research needs to be in perfect alignment with the mission statement of the American Lung Association. So she mentioned this before, but I will repeat it again. So the mission is to save lives by improving lung health and preventing lung disease. So it's pretty broad. I think if you're in the lung, if you're interested in things that affect diseases that affect the lung, if you're interested in infections, indoor air, pollution, all of these things that impact our lung health, respiratory system as a whole is good. But then you need to take it to the next level and really explain to us, the reviewers, why you think that alignment is perfect. So don't take it for granted that just because you're studying something that, you're studying the lung, that it's a perfectly fundable application, because all the applications we get are in alignment. So you need to, think a little bit deeper and set yourself apart as far as aligning your research with the mission of the ALA. So today my goal is very simple. So I want to talk to you about what exactly separates a good application from a fundable application for the ALA, okay? So I'll highlight some of the things that we reviewers care about, and then I'll walk you through the steps to help you improve your application so that it's funded by the American Lung Association. And I mentioned earlier that I was very passionate about the Lung Association, and this is why. So in 2015, I got my very first ALA grant, and at that time it was called the Biomedical Research Award. And then in 2018 or 19, the years are a little bit grainy now, I got the Innovation Award from the American Lung Association. And then a couple of years after, I got the Emerging Respiratory Infectious Agent. Well, I can't remember the term, but Maria mentioned, but I got that award. So I'm a 3-time ALA fundee, so I'm very passionate about it. And the reason I tell you this is because the ALA believed in my research before the NIH did. So the grants that I got from the ALA, I used, and that's what I used to generate prelim data that supported my NIH applications that were successful. So I will do anything and everything the ALA asks me to do because, I feel like my career would not have been possible without the ALA. So this is the impact that the Lung Association grants can have in your career as well. Okay, so let's get back to the talk. So your job is to make the reviewer's job absurdly easy. Okay, so we're going to talk about how you can make your application super easy for us to read and then support so that you can get a fundable score. So at the end of the day, when you strip away all the minutia, all the noise, all the critical details, your application to be fundable should have 3 pillars. The first is a very clearly articulated, urgent question that pertains to lung health. The second is, I mentioned already, the alignment with the ALA's mission. And the third is unambiguous feasibility. Okay, so those are the 3 pillars that's going to really set you apart and push your application to the top of the pile as far as scoring is concerned. So the first one, your question, it needs to be super clear and super urgent. Okay, so you need to define to us, the reviewers, what the knowledge gaps are. Don't take for granted that we, the reviewer who's reading your application, is as familiar with the field as you might be. Okay, so define the knowledge gaps, explain your question, and explain why your question is impactful now. Okay, so talk about that in great detail. And then talk about your expected outcomes and the impact that you expect your research to have once everything is successfully completed. The American Lung Association's alignment, so this is, you get a whole page to write this, and then I think that a good applicant will weave this into their significance section as well. So kind of, don't force it, let it come naturally, but make it clear that your science fits the Lung Association's priorities, and you can weave that narrative into your entire proposal. Use, read through, Maria showed you the links, read through the application criteria that they describe. So, there's pages and pages of information, read it through and make sure you can use the language that's set forth for those applications in the criteria. Use it sparingly, but use it strategically to really like set, ground your application in that mission. And then of course, we want you to have prelim data. We don't expect a lot of prelim data, okay? But the prelim data that you do provide needs to be rigorous and it needs to support the logic of your work. Your team, whomever you assemble to do the work with you, needs to have documented expertise. So if you, for example, are studying lung cancer, but you may not have the perfect expertise in that type of cancer you're studying, bring someone else on board as a consultant, a mentor, a collaborator in some way, shape, or form so that we know, oh, if this person hits a road bump, do they have the expertise around them to help them overcome this? We have to have confidence that you are able to do the work. So that's really, really important. And then, of course, plan realistic timelines, your milestones. Those things need to be addressed, and don't write, these applications are fundings are only for 1 to 2 years, right? So don't write a 5-year proposal for one of these in ALA grant mechanisms. So make sure that whatever you say you're going to do is doable in that time frame of the award period, and make that really really clear. And then, so what do strong applicants do differently? So when we're reading through as reviewers, they get to the point fast. So don't, give a whole list of things that we need to kind of wade through before we get to the point. So get to the point fast, make it like punchy, and then understand that the very first thing a reviewer is going to do is skim your application. So your aims page needs to be really, really strong. The logic flow needs to be perfect. At the end of that, we have to have a full picture of what to expect when we go to your research strategy and read your 6 pages, right? So make sure that you get to the point really fast and make it really punchy. So remember, come back to your urgent question. All that needs to be in the very first paragraph that you give us. Then demonstrate the mastery you have in the literature, okay? So what that means is, don't drown us, don't give us a lit review. We know you know the literature, but give us the highlights that are necessary for us to understand where you're coming from, and understand that gap in knowledge that your application is specifically going to address, okay? All right, so now innovation. Now this is of utmost important, especially if you're applying for an innovation award. It's in the title of the grant mechanism, right? Don't overclaim innovation. Don't say you're the first to do something if you're not the first to do something, because the reviewers are going to look, okay? So be honest with what you are claiming is innovative. And if it's the use of an established technique, but you are using it in a completely innovative way for a different, so something is different, something is innovative about it in your use of it, then say that. Just be honest, but lay it all out, okay? So that's like really important, because remember, the reviewers are going to check your claims. Now, if you, when you're writing your proposal and you're doing your approach, make sure that you anticipate our concerns when we are reading it, okay? So a good, fundable grant will already say, oh yes, we expect this to go wrong, or in the event we don't get the mouse, that, the mouse doesn't breed in time or something, whatever it is you anticipate could happen with your research, tell us. Because we want to feel smart too, because by the time we get to that section, we want to feel like, oh yeah, I thought of that too. Oh, I'm so smart, Just make the reviewer's job really, really easy. Lay it all out. Make it super clear. Don't let us, read between the lines. Don't make us assume anything. Just be very straight with how you write. So if there are limitations in your data, just acknowledge them. That's okay. Your data are presented to us as preliminary data. We expect it to not be perfect, but don't try to hide anything that might be wrong with the data, right? So, and don't give us data like without the appropriate controls, for example. But for some reason, if you know that something is missing, just tell us straight up, yes, I know this is a limitation in the data I'm providing, or this is a limitation in my experimental approach, but this is how I'm going to navigate this situation, if awarded. And that makes us happy when we're reading. So the strongest application, though, makes the whole package flow with the same messaging. Okay, so Maria mentioned, all the different grant mechanisms. Now, all of you guys are going to upload those documents into Proposal Central. Proposal Central will assemble your application for you. We get that assembled application. Make sure that there are no holes in it. Make sure that you accidentally didn't, forget to upload something, or make sure that the formatting didn't change. Make sure that your significance page doesn't appear at the end of the application or something like that. So make sure it's your job to show us that you gave the same attention to detail that you gave to the aims page and the research strategy to the entire package. That makes us feel like, oh yeah, this is a person that we can trust. This is a person who pays attention to detail. This is a person that's, going to care about how things are done. And it's just the whole, it's just subliminal messaging for us, but it's really important because Maria will say, us reviewers are like, well, where is this? Why is there no aims page? We've had applications like that. And it would be a shame for your application to get triaged because you missed a document, for example. Okay? All right, so let's talk about, so that kind of led the way to common pitfalls. So the most common pitfall is that your aims are too broad or your whole application is too ambitious. Now, remember, it's a 2-year, most of these are 2-year awards. So if you come to us with one strong, specific aim and you detail how you're gonna, get through that aim in the 2 years, it's okay. You don't have to come with a 2-aim application. We've had several 1-aim, very strong applications. So make sure that your aims are very clear and that your entire application is feasible. Okay, so avoid, make it crisp, make it testable, avoid making it broad and too ambitious. The next main thing is having no rationale or a weak rationale. So your gap in knowledge that you're addressing must be very clear, must be rationalized and justified, cannot be too broad. Your prelim data that you do give us must match the aims. You don't have to give us a ton of prelim data, as I mentioned before, but every piece of data that you give us must support your application, right? And then make sure that your figures are not too teeny weeny. Most of us are, having a hard time kind of making sense, and we are enlarging everything. And if we can't make sense of what you're showing us, we're going to get upset, and then that's not good. So make sure that your figures are uncluttered, easy to understand, just really well laid out, well formatted, all of that. Then I mentioned this before, one of the critical mistakes that you can actually learn to avoid is giving us contingency plans. Always give us, after your approach, give us those contingency plans. Pitfalls, alternatives. If this happens, I will do this. If this happens, I will do this. And then, if they are logical, we're going to be happy. We're like, oh, okay, if A doesn't work, they have a backup and a backup to a backup. And that means that at the end of the day, the investment that the American Lung Association is making in you will give us something in return, right? You will move, you will push the field forward. And that's what we want. And then finally, don't overwrite. Don't load it with technical details, avoid jargon. Don't expect every reader or reviewer to be in your specific field. So write clearly, make it very easy for us to get through your application start to finish. A happy reviewer, will understand the importance of your work, will understand the steps, the overall viewpoint that you are trying to give us. And if we understand your grant, we're going to score you higher. That's just normal, right? That's just human nature. Okay, so have a checklist. And again, read all the information that the ALA provides you on the website. Verify that you have a crisp and compelling significance. Make sure the significance is not just a lit review. Make it very clear to us. Your aims must flow logically and come naturally from that urgent and relevant, timely question that you want to address. So make everything kind of weave everything into a beautiful story. Your prelim data must support your aims. Your innovation paragraph must be very punchy, honest, and clear to us. And then, of course, your method section must be written in a way that we can follow. And then, don't forget the statistical analysis. Don't forget the rigor and reproducibility aspect of it. We do look for that as well. And then, your entire package must be perfect, right? So, and that goes to the your bio sketches, the letters that you get from your mentors, if you're applying for a Dulcimer Award, for example. And then, a perfect ALA application is about clarity. It's about focus. It's about convincing us, the reviewers, that your work is a good investment. Okay? All right. So that being said, I want to take the next few minutes, not too long, just to talk about what we see from the reviewer's eyes. Okay, so I don't think I mentioned, but I am the co-chair of the American Lung Association study section or review committee that reviews the Dulcimer Awards, the Hastings Awards, and the Innovation Awards. I've been reviewing for the ALA since 2018, and I've been co-chairing the study section since 2022. So when we meet with the reviewers ahead of time, we give them some pointers. So I'm going to share some of those with you so that you kind of see like what's going to happen when your application is downloaded by us as the reviewers. So the very first thing I will tell you, a nice little tip that you might not think about. So the co-chairs, myself and Yvonne, actually assign the reviewers based on the titles that you put in your application. So your application title is super important. It must capture the essence of your entire proposal. And then that's what we use to sort of match the reviewers that we think will have the expertise to do a good job on your application. So think a little bit about it, okay? That's going to help me and Yvonne when we are assigning applications. All right, so for the written critique, we provide those to you. We grade you on investigator, the environment and career development, significance and relevance to the ALA mission, innovation approach, and then we also look at the human section, human, animal, and biohazard sections. We always look for those as well. We do pay attention to the budget and the budget justification. So make sure whatever budget you write, make sure it's perfectly justified. And then if you are revising your application and resubmitting, we do read your response to the prior review critiques. And we do go back and make sure that you have made amendments to the application that kind of matches the prior critique. So don't resend an application if you haven't paid attention to any of the reviewers' comments. Most of the time, this study section is set, so somebody will see the application again. So just pay attention to that. And then, of course, we follow the NIH scoring system. So the range goes from 1 to 9, 1 being best. And then we look for, the reviewers are going to, 2 reviewers, as Maria mentioned, will review your application and they'll score independently. And then we, at the study section meeting, we discuss the top 50% of your applications. And then if there's any discordance between the reviewers, we sort it out during the study section meeting. So we are very applicant centric at the ALA. We want you to succeed. So the reviewers are going to fight for you. So that's why I was saying, those little tips that I gave you earlier, give them the power, give the reviewers the power to fight for you. We do rescue applications. We do, fight each other, so to speak. If we think that the research is important, if we believe in you as a candidate, so it's not, our study section is very focused on career development and giving you opportunities to succeed. So make sure that you help us do that job for you. And then, the primary reviewer will have 7 minutes or so to pitch your application to the group and then discuss the main strengths and weaknesses. The secondary reviewer will follow. And then we discuss as the open study section, everybody can, comment on your application, ask questions, etc. And then at the end, we take our final score. So that's basically how, things work out. And then Maria takes it from there. We submit our scores and the ALA takes over and then you guys get your funding. So that's how it all works. So remember, at the end of the day, the study section is your advocate. So give us really strong applications and help us advocate for you. That's it.
All right. That's great. Thank you, Maria and Amali, for sharing these insights. We can take questions now.
I had a question for both Maria and Molly. As early career researchers, sometimes we do research that might align with multiple different types of awards. So do you have any advice in terms of how to go about choosing which award to apply for? And, from the reviewer standpoint, like if, for example, the indoor air studies, the award, there's multiple different types of research that could fall under that mechanism. How do you go about comparing these types of projects that may have very different, translational or basic science type approaches.
Maria, go ahead first.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Samarasinghe mentioned that our RFAs are very detailed. For early career researchers, we encourage them to reach out to their mentors and their network to help them decide what mechanism works best. Currently at the American Lung Association, the structure of the programs do not include program officers. And to be fair to other applicants, we meaning ALA staff, we can answer high-level administrative eligibility questions, but we can't really get into the weeds regarding what type of mechanisms a particular applicant should use. So again, we encourage you to use your network.
Yeah, the criteria are very clear, yay. So I really encourage, if you're considering an application, submitting an application, I really encourage you to read that in detail. Unfortunately, if you choose, let's say you choose, the Innovation Award, but that's not suitable for the type of research that you're doing, but it's been submitted as that, unfortunately, we can't, at the review stage, we don't change the mechanisms because the study sections are for different award mechanisms. So we might put it in the notes and say, hey, next time consider this avenue instead of this. So the reviewers, we will still review it, but we will say, this is not best suited for this particular mechanism. So it's best that, the applicant doesn't choose the wrong one at the start.
And if it is a mentored award, then you should also run it through your mentor because they can help you with what category fits best for your grant proposal.
Yes, and I will mention, so we do review the Dulcimer Awards, which are mentored awards in our study section. We pay close attention to the mentor. And we actually critique the mentor more than sometimes we critique the applicant. So make sure if you're doing a mentored award that your mentor reads it, your mentor's letter is perfect, and your career development plan is very well articulated. That's super important. And that you get letters from the department chairs, all of that. Because we look and we will say, well, the applicant is fantastic, but why is it that they don't have the room to do the work or the instruments to do the work? We are going to ask those questions. And then in the end, unfortunately, that's going to work against the applicant. So it's really important that the mentors are supportive.
And that answers my question. I was about to ask Amali, could you please give some advice on letter of supports for mentored grant? Because I think they are seen very closely, reviewed very closely.
Yeah, we scrutinize those letters line by line and we talk about them. So if your mentor is going to say, oh, Ranu is wonderful and I fully support Ranu and Ranu will have access to whatever I have, things like that, that's good. But we want an elaboration. So if your letter is over a page, I think good. There's certain criteria that's listed in the award mechanism. So I would recommend that the mentors actually follow that and make sure that each of those criteria are addressed. And so let's say, for instance, at that very moment in time, the mentee may not have all the lab space that's available to them. That's okay. Just acknowledge it and tell us, okay, at the moment, this is what we have, but this is what we have discussed doing in the future. Tell us, give us the confidence that you're not going to abandon your trainee, after the grant is awarded.
We have a couple of questions in the Q&A. So the first question is from Anna. She asked, I've seen under the past research winners list that some applications were submitted to a different funding mechanism. So for example, if they submitted to the Dulcimer Award, but then got funded through the Innovation Award, how does that work?
Oh, that's such an interesting question, and thank you for raising it. Some of our grant mechanisms are funded through different funding sources. So I'm going to give you an example with the Hastings Award. So we are working with the Hastings Foundation, and they were very generous in awarding up to one project per year. But when we send out or when we put out the grant mechanism RFA, we're not capping how many people we want to apply. So if 3 applications come in and they're excellent applications, we have funding from the Hastings Foundation for one, then the highest scoring applications for the Hastings Foundation will carry that name. And the two other applications that were also applied through the Hastings Award, but are now going to be funded with ALA funding. So then we switch them to innovation because that's what closest resembles it. But that's basically it. It's just like an administrative swap based on funding sources.
And then, thank you. And then we also have another question, I think, from Maria. So for submitting the application, can the institution officials sign the application at any time during the preparation of the submission, or is it only after finishing, like uploading the proposal? I think it's because the application deadline's coming up soon. So
well, I would think that the signing official would want to see the whole application before it gets signed off. So I would wait until everything's submitted so they have access to what you're submitting.
Hello? Oh, hi. I'm sorry if I miss it. So if we apply for one of the categories and we didn't get selected, when we reapply the next year, but to another, a different award, do we still need to submit, our response to the reviewers? Even if it's like it's our second time applying, but it's the first time to this different award.
I would think, and Dr. Samarasinghe, please correct me if you feel from a reviewer perspective, this should be handled differently. I think that if you apply for a completely different grant mechanism under a different title, different aims, then you wouldn't want to refer to what was previously said or reviewed. And I would just start from scratch.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
If it's different.
100% different.
Liz, does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There's another question about early career mentored award opportunities. So for these awards, do you need to meet the minimum time for postdoc training at the time of submission or before the receipt of award if selected for funding?
So our RFAs are very detailed, and there's no flexibility in eligibility because we want to make sure that we're being fair with all applicants. So as you read the RFA, that's exactly the eligibility criteria that we're going to follow. So for early career investigators, the rule is that you have to have had at least 2 years of previous research. And then your mentor, the department head, has to ensure that you'll have at least 2 more years for the research, or 3, depending on the grant mechanism, for the duration of the research. So there's no flexibility in that.
Yeah, and if it's captured during the review process, we will triage it even at that point.
I had a quick question maybe about like preliminary results. This is for Amali, like how especially for early career awards where you may not have a ton of preliminary data, like what is your emphasis on that? And if you don't have a lot of preliminary data, what's your advice for, applicants in terms of, including that as part of their application?
Yeah, so we get the whole gamut in our study section. So sometimes, we get very mature applicants with the whole slew of prelim data. And then we do get that the applications that are very strong and scored very well with only 1 or 2 figures. So it really, is up to the applicant. What we want to see is that the data you do provide us are rigorous and completely supportive of your aims. If it's, apples and oranges, then, you might have a ton of prelim data, but if it doesn't really support your aims, then it's hard for us to get behind that, right? So I wouldn't get dissuaded by the fact that you might only have 1 or 2 strong figures to provide us. That's okay. In that case, when you're writing your approach, what we would want to see and what you can include is, for example, let's say you want to run a single-cell-seq experiment. Show us that you have either, yourself, you have the expertise because you've published on it before, and you can actually say, oh, here's my data from my previous publication, and you can put that in there. It saves us the trouble because we're going to look. So it saves us the trouble from searching. Or say, my expert committee has this expertise, and therefore, this is from their publication. I'm putting just to show that, these are my mentors or my collaborators, and here's that strength. So you can use that as well. We are not going to penalize you because they are not, generated by you, as long as it serves a purpose. Every figure must serve a purpose.
Perfect. We do have a question about the Public Health and Public Policy Research Award. So does the proposal have to cover both aspects, so both public health and public policy, or could it be focused on public health aspect without the policy implication component?
That's a really great question, and I don't think I can absolutely respond to it without really knowing what the project entails. So I would be happy to share a brief outline of what the thought is with the committee chair, so they can weigh in on the aims and what's expected. So if you want to email it to me, I'm happy to share it with the chairs.
Yeah, and I can vouch that when Maria says that, she means it, because we get a lot of questions from her. Oh, okay, I got this question from the applicant. What do you guys think? So she's very, very, very good.
Thank you, Dr.
So I have one question from Maria. So how ECPs can get involved more in ALA, not just for the grants, but then getting some experience on reviewing?
Thank you, Dr. Searle. Yeah, I feel like that's such a great question. I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have for early career researchers is an opportunity to be able to be part of our review panels, and not every review panel has the ability to host early career reviewers, but we do have select mechanisms that do host early career reviewers. Normally, it's the slots are reserved for our awardees, but if you're interested in joining one of our committees, you can email me and let me know that you're interested. And then I would share those with the chairs and see the expertise. And then we could invite you potentially to be part of our panels. And I think that that's a great way to see what goes on behind the scenes in an environment that hopefully is supportive and that can really guide you and teach you different skills that you weren't maybe exposed to previously. Dr. Samarasinghe's panel, unfortunately, does not allow early career reviewers, but like I said, we do have other committees that do.
I know, it's too bad, because I really want people to know that we do really fight for each applicant. So
you do.
Just know that. And Ranu can attest.
No, it's such a fantastic opportunity, because I remember I applied for early career reviewer for NIH grants. So I'm glad that ALA also has that mechanism, and it will be really helpful. It helped me a lot. So I can tell that, yeah.
There's another question. So given that there is no strict guidance for the page or word limit for the project summary, is there a rule of thumb that has been traditionally successful in view of the proposal size? So, is a larger project summary better? Is it shorter better? I guess this is for both Amali and Maria. Maybe more Amali.
Maria, go ahead with the guidelines.
I defer to you, Dr. Samarasinghe. I think that for the project summaries, from our perspective, the length doesn't really matter as long as you're not sharing, technical information that is, IP protected or IP protected. I think that any length should be fine. But Dr. Samarasinghe, you can add to that.
Yeah, so in our panel, most of the reviewers use it if they're discussing your application to kind of that's what they kind of use as a base to introduce the application to the group. My personal preference is like half a page, no longer, because that's one additional thing for us to read. So make it really succinct.
All right. Yeah. Have we covered all the questions?
Yep, those were all the questions. If anyone else has questions, I think you can also raise your hand and then we can unmute you because we are kind of coming towards the end of our session.
Yes, so in the end, I thank Maria and Amali one more time. Thank you. And they were fantastic points. I think everybody that got so much information on these awards. And if there are further questions, they can email us to Maria or Amali or me. We will definitely answer you back. With that note, everybody, happy Thanksgiving and all the best for your grant applications.